নমস্কার বন্ধুরা, ইন্ডিয়ান ফুড এন্ড ফুটবলের নতুন এপিসোডে স্বাগত আপনাদেরকে। আজকে আমাদের সাথে আছে মিস্টার রঞ্জিত বাজাজ। আপনারা সবাই চেনেন ওনাকে। আর আমাদের সাথে আছে আমাদের সবার প্রিয় অরুণাবদা। দুজনেই আজকে এখানে এসেছেন এই প্ল্যাটফর্মে। দুজনে আই থিঙ্ক ফার্স্ট টাইম একসাথে কোনো চ্যানেলে এসেছেন, আর দ্যাটস ভেরি কাইন্ড অফ বোথ অফ দেম টু বি পার্ট অফ দ্য ডিসকাশন। তো আজকে ফার্স্ট অফ অল, Ranjit sir, I think this is the second time you are in this channel. So again,
Yes,
welcome, warm
yes.
welcome.
Thank you so
Warm
much, and
welcome.
it's a pleasure to be here, especially with Arunava being there in the same panel. Thank you so much.
And welcome, Onauda. Again, I think we discuss weekly, but again, you got this time out on a Saturday to discuss football, about Indian football. Thank you for that.
Morning, Marka.
Thank you.
Morning. Great to see Ranjit also here. And let's see what we can say and suggest what East Bengal can do better in the near future and in the long term.
Yep.
So today's topic, everybody is aware. सबको पता है क्या topic? I'm doing it in Hindi. I think it's people will at least will get to know. I think English is something थोड़ा challenging हो सकता है. तो I would say that आपको topics आने से पहले हम दोनों को एक ही question पूछूंगा मैं. ये इंडियन टीम को आप कैसे देख रहे हो? आप कॉन्टिनेंटल कप में you have scored 4 games. Now you have seen 2 games. How you see, Ranjit sir? You are there. I think today you were there in the stadium, right? तो आपको कैसा लग रहा है इस टीम को?
No, I was there in the stadium in the last match for the Pakistan match. Today I'm at home. That's why you can see all the pictures in the background. So this is not an artificial background. Yeah. So see what I saw even today, but I was watching the match live on TV, and today and the last match. Before that, the Intercontinental Cup, huge change from what they played in the last SAF Cup, but not a huge change from what they played in the Asian qualifiers. Which just proves to me it's not about the team was the same, but and it's not about the coach. It's the moment you give time to the coach. Now, first of all, this guy Igor has been made sure that he's been given at least a guarantee behind on his back that your head is not on the chopping block till the Asian Cup, and there's a fine print के Asian Cup में आपको ये करना है और अगर आप qualify करोगे तो आप आगे जाओगे. But Asian Cup तक उसको free reign मिला है. अब उससे एक और चीज़ है, एशियन कप बिकॉज पोस्टपोन हो गया तो हमारे को टाइम मिल गया. अब उस टाइम की वजह से अगर हमने एडवांटेज लिया है कि हमारे को ये कैंप मिला है, बिकॉज अभी कोई फुटबॉल नहीं चल रहा था, उस कैंप की वजह से यू कैन सी द परफॉर्मेंस. फुटबॉल ये नहीं था कि हमारे फुटबॉलर्स टैलेंटेड नहीं थे, बट अगर आप मेरे हिसाब से अगर आप ISL से सीधा आप उठा के लेके जाओगे उनको, तो एक प्लेयर है जो उसके दिमाग में ड्रिल्ड है कि वो FC गोवा का प्लेयर है, ही हैज टू प्ले शॉर्ट पासेस, ही हैज टू बिल्ड अप. ठीक है. एक प्लेयर है स्टीफन कॉन्स्टेंटाइन का, उसको बोला गया है एज अ विंगर कि जैसे तूने हाफ लाइन क्रॉस किया, तूने क्रॉस मारना है, फॉरगेट अबाउट थिंकिंग ऑफ गोइंग इन, विंगर वुंगर नहीं है, तूने सिर्फ क्रॉस मारना है, दैट इज योर जॉब. सो 4-4-2 और स्टीवन कॉयल्स टीम द सेम 4-4-2. आई मीन, यू नो, एवरी कोच हैज अ डिफरेंट स्टाइल. अब तुमने क्या बोला कि 10 टीमों के बंदे इकट्ठे करो जो बेस्ट प्लेयर है, उनको इकट्ठे लाओ एंड देन दे शुड प्ले दैट स्टाइल. बहुत मुश्किल है. अब ये अच्छा क्यों हो रहा है? बिकॉज इसने पैटर्न्स करवाए हैं इगोर ने. अब दिख रहा है कि यू कैन सी पैटर्न्स हैपनिंग. पैटर्न्स कैन ओनली हैपन अगर तुम्हारे पास एटलीस्ट 30-40 डेज हुए. सेम वे जो इन्होंने, यू कैन सी दिस अप डाउन मूवमेंट, दैट मीन्स आगे पास करके उसने पीछे दिया, उसने पीछे देके आगे दिया और ऐसे प्रोग्रेस कर रहे हैं. ये भी तभी हो सकता है अगर आपके पास टाइम है. एवरी टीम कैन नॉट डू दिस जस्ट कमिंग इनटू इट. नाउ अगर हमें टाइम मिला, we can put up a good performance there in the Asian Cup. अगर हमें टाइम नहीं मिला, मतलब कि अगर हम एक दिन पहले ही चले गए वहां पे विदाउट ब्रेक एंड विदाउट अ कैंप टुगेदर, कोई चांस ही नहीं है कि हम ऑस्ट्रेलिया से जाके compete कर लेंगे. कोई चांस ही नहीं है. It's not going to be on the same level. It will be like India Pakistan again, a 3-4-0 to us against us. And ये truth है. मगर ये नहीं कह रहा कि अगर हम कैंप दोगे तो हम इंडिया हरा देगी, but India will be able to show its potential, and then it can happen. There is a chance it can happen.
Ranjit sir, I would say that आप जो बोल रहे थे when we started off the program, before that the clean sheet part जो आपको अच्छा लग रहा है इस टीम में, the team is gelling well in the backline is playing to their potential. Sandesh Jingan, then there is Anwar Ali. I think both of the center backs are doing their job properly, and other people there. if you see the goalkeeper, there has been a lot of change. If you see one game, Amrinder is getting a chance. One game, Gurpreet Sandhu is getting a chance. So that is enabling that more or less all the players in the team are getting some game time, which is very, very important. When we'll be going, I think after this we are going to Kings Cup, and after that, when there is an injury coming up in our way, then we will have some players who can take their places. That's a good part of this.
Very
But
good
इसके
part.
साथ एक रंजीत सर और
नहीं,
एक इसके
इनफैक्ट
साथ
नॉट
एक
ओनली
पार्ट भी
दैट,
आता है.
ये जो सैफ कप है ना, सैफ कप बहुत अच्छा है. पहले सैफ कप जीतना वाज लाइक, अगर हम सैफ कप ना जीते तो ये फेलियर है. इस बार ऐसी बात नहीं है. ये सैफ कप वो सैफ कप नहीं है. ये सैफ कप में लेबनान है, ये सैफ कप में कुवैत है. सो आपको अपना इसको जीत के दिखाना मायने रखेगा. सैफ कप पिछले से पिछले साल जीतना और हारना तो बहुत बड़ा फेलियर था. जीतना तो हैज टू बी अ मस्ट, कि ये तो हमने जीतना ही है. सो इनका स्टाइल ऑफ प्ले बेटर हुआ है. हाँ, ये सेट पीस करना शुरू किया इन्होंने. हाँ, इन्होंने कोई इनोवेशन की है जहां पे यंग प्लेयर्स को लेके आए हैं, एंड यंग प्लेयर्स हैव बीन एबल टू टेक प्लेस ऑफ द प्लान्स हु हैव स्टॉलवर्ट्स. हाँ, डू वी हैव पीपल हु हैव, जो कभी भी सोच ही नहीं सकते थे कि ये प्लेस तो इसकी सेफ है, इसकी जगह भी कोई आ सकता है. गुरप्रीत सिंह संधू, उसकी जगह अमरिंदर सिंह आया. सो अब हमारे पास बैकअप है. क्योंकि हमारे पास इतने मैच है. ये साल ऐसा साल होएगा इंडियन फुटबॉल के लिए जहां पे हमारी इंटरनेशनल टीम ने हिस्ट्री में सबसे ज्यादा इंटरनेशनल मैच खेले हैं. सो नो मैटर व्हाट यू से, इट्स अ ग्रेट थिंग. ओनली गुड थिंग्स कैन कम आउट. यस, we would like them to play against higher ranked teams, but we are getting there. So that's where Kuwait and Lebanon come in, and then preparing for the main.
Okay. So Unavada, from your side, short on what do you think about the India? Your assessment of the Indian team in what you have seen last 6 games, to be precise. Are you happy with the way team is going?
See, there are two sides to look at it of having multiple players. We have a pool of players, about 25, 30 players. You can expand it to, let's say, even 50 players who potentially can get into the national team. Our problem is, I feel, and it's something that if you look at how Bob Houghton used to work, how Steven used to work, even Wim Koevermans used to say, okay, I've got 5, 6 players who are sort of my backbone of the team. I don't seem to have a backbone. What I'm hearing a lot from the players, I don't know what the coach wants from me. I don't know if I'm in, if I'm out. And that is, on the other side, creating some insecurity, which I find very, very, knowing how, the psyche of Indian footballers is that you have to have that assurance, that natural feeling, okay, I'm there. What is good, you're giving a lot of exposure, and by giving exposure, you're able to find gems like Mahesh Naurem, who's been sort of one of the standout players of these last 6 games, who is really cementing that position against other players. But of course, we have players are missing, players like Brandon are missing. Liston Colasso, again, I always talk about consistency of players. Are you consistent in your performances? Can Mahesh keep that level? I think that one player who stands out to me, who I've liked for quite a while, is Jangte, who seems to have come of age. At 24, 25, the boy finally seems to be able to showcase what he's able to do. Sahal has done better in the number 10 position. Very, very interesting fact that he is. But I also like this, when Sunil dropped back and you had actually a natural number 9 in Rahim Ali playing over there. Sunil with his movements, he adds a factor as well. So there's this thing, and the defensive unit. And you saw today also, when Gurpreet is being put under pressure, Gurpreet is not that goalkeeper who's able to play football. And that is something which is wanted. I remember we had that discussion with our Pakistani friends, why the goalkeeper created that blunder and enabled Sunil to score that goal. So in that way, Gurpreet being the brilliant shot stopper that he is on the line, but if you're asking him to start creating something, it becomes somewhat of a problem. So these are the things that Igor needs to find out, which is my best. I need to play Sandesh Jingan. Sandesh Jingan, mentality-wise, I need that winning mentality. Sandesh is a warrior. He might not be the best technical player, but you need to see, is it Anwar Ali next to him? Yeah, exactly, Ranjit. He plays with his heart. Is it Anwar? Is it maybe Mehtab Singh, who has, Shan, we've talked about him in the past in East Bengal, and now where he is. Sana, of course, is missing due to the problems in Manipur.
I think there's an issue with
Sorry.
yes, yes,
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah,
yes,
sorry,
Somu.
sorry. Sorry. So we've got options in those positions. The left back, you've got options. Akash, very, very good in his attacking instincts, but also good left back. If you want to play a little more defensive, Shubhashish Bose might be an option. On the right, you have options as well. So therefore, we've got good. The question is defensive midfield. What is your best option in that? That's going to be the crucial position for us going into that Asian Cup. If you're playing a 4-2-3-1, who are the two blockers? That's the question. Is it a Jackson? Is it an Apuya? Are you using a Thapar in a more defensive position? How are you playing around with this? That is, I think, important one. Up front, Sunil, no worries. I think Changte is on one side is a given at the moment. Mahesh seems to be the other one who's taking that spot. And the question is, are you using an attacking Sahal? Are you using maybe, is Brandon going to be that player? Might Thapa be that creative player up front? So we have options. But again, as I say, I think we don't have those 5-6 standout players where Igor can sort of say, listen, I'm going to play them all the time. He's giving Sunil the minutes. Ranjit said something very, very important about the minutes. I think Sunil wants those minutes. That's a very important thing. Because he doesn't play in that position in his club. He has to play wide in his club. He comes on as a substitute sometimes. So therefore, there are a lot of positives for Igor. I know that these long camps is something that not only him, but all coaches will want. But I remember last time around, Stephen had 5-6 days of sort of settling down and going into the Asian Cup. I remember Yunmin Song came into the tournament. He left London one day before the tournament. So he was sort of a Pakistan situation and had to play the next day. So our advantage on that front might be that the players who play, for example, in England and in Scotland, they might be playing a match just 3-4 days before and just joining the team. But is he going to get 40 days before the Asian Cup? No, they will. That's happened. You know, the FIFA window.
No. But what was our... Let's come to that. We had only 5-6 days in the last Asian Cup. What was our performance?
It was the best amongst the best that I've seen. We thrashed Thailand 4-1.
And?
We played the best 30 minutes I've seen an Indian team play against the UAE in Abu Dhabi, controlling them. If Ashik used his chances, we would have been through. We would have topped the group.
Yeah, but we would have. See, how would you have made our chance? So imagine we played so well with no days with Stephen. Imagine if you had given him 20 days. Would that have made our team better or worse?
I understand that, but the reality is also how do you organize your club season? You're going to take more than your FIFA windows in September, October.
That's where the debate over club over country comes. So if you're going to keep on fighting over rankings, and then in the time you're going to say how are you going to organize your club season, that's where what happens is when FSDL controls the commercial rights of even the federation, the country comes second. That is why, that is the main problem. The Indian team is the main sufferer when you have a commercial partner who controls each and everything. The moment you give,
No.
See, if I was the president of AIFF, it would be my dictate that you will damn well shut the bloody league down if I have control over it, because I care for my country's ranking much more than the money.
রঞ্জিত স্যার কি আটকে গেছে কি কোনো ভাবে ওনাও আটকে গেছে কি
Sorry,
নেটওয়ার্কের ইস্যু হচ্ছে
Yeah, so the whole point is that if you are able to do something for your country, you've got to make sure that we are not at a stage where Australia is or Qatar is, that they're already qualifying for every Asian Cup. This is the second time in our history we have done it. Now, if you're thinking of actually making it into the World Cup by 2034 and you don't even get into the quarterfinals, there's no chance in the next one you're just going to make it into the top 4. There's no chance, because that's what you have to do to qualify. So you have to actually think of biting the bullet and telling all the clubs that we'll extend your season. So what is happening? Why is the season can't be extended? It is only because of what you have with the commercial rights going on. If the federation puts its foot down, which it could have if it had control, they would have said, okay, fine, for 1 month the league is off. They've done that. They did that for the World Cup for all the leagues. because the World Cup is much more important than all the leagues in the world put together. Even more important than the Premier League.
But
more
but
important.
most of the teams, no, Ranjit.
Exactly.
But there's an
But
important
that's
point
what
over
I'm
there.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
The
FIFA
World
has
Cup, you
control.
got seven days. No. You had 7 days going into a tournament, a World Cup. We're talking about the pinnacle of world football.
Yes.
Teams,
Yes. Exactly.
Germany got 10 days
Now,
because
all
they
the teams,
didn't play on the
that's what
first
I'm
day.
saying, Arnav,
So
all the
that's
teams
the
qualifying for the
Premier
World
League,
Cup.
the Bundesliga, La Liga, all of
Exactly
them.
what I mean. See, that's what I'm saying. All the teams which have qualified for the World Cup, and even the teams which are up to, I'm talking about Korea's, Japan's, and Australia's, they can even leave the next day and qualify. We are not that good. We are not that good if we don't come together as a camp. Okay, so my things, I was saying all these things before the SAF Cup last year. And I was telling them, please give us a camp, please give us a camp, please give us a camp. What did they do? They went straight from the ISL, landed there. Why? Oh, Sri Lanka, man. Oh, it's Afghanistan, man. They
আটকে গেছে নাকি নেটওয়ার্কের ইস্যু হচ্ছে মনে হয় না ওনাও মনে হচ্ছে একটু প্রবলেম হচ্ছে তো আমরা টপিকে আসছি
Yeah.
রঞ্জিত
Sorry, guys. So again and again,
নেটওয়ার্কের
yeah, my network issues, guys. Again and again, they look so bad. They had to actually take 2 matches to get equal to Sri Lanka and then draw with another country like that, which was ranked 100 places below you, and then go on and just scrape by and win the SAF Cup. And look at the performance in the first match and the second match. This is a big, huge difference. If today our second team played and we were still able to notch out a victory. Everyone knew before the match that we'll beat Pakistan and we'll beat Nepal. No one knew before that match, and we were actually getting scared of Nepal, Afghanistan, and Sri Lanka. Nobody knew that. Why? Because we saw how we played. It's the difference of what we see on the field. It's not about whether they can do it or not. What has happened in the past? When they played against Sri Lanka, they looked horrible. It took them actual 7 days of practice together as a team and playing 2 matches, which was one was a draw and one was a loss. And then they started winning, and then they came into the semi-final. They were actually going to be eliminated earlier. Now, and then they went for the Asian Cup qualifiers. They had again 45 days, 42-day camp. The way they played, beautiful football. So I think that you're denying us. See, forget about that. You ask any coach worth his salt what he wants. Forget about what he gets. Okay? We are here to make the coach's life easier, not more difficult. Why? Because if we make the coach's life easier, our country will go further. Now, if you want to take the carpet under him and say you succeed still if you are a good coach, that's not how you go about it. Unless you're in the top 10 in the world and your commercial exploitation rights are so much that you can't even think about it. We are still getting there. Now, we need to give our coach the longest rope he can get, because we have given him a target of qualifying from that group, which is a very tough group. So we need to listen to him. So if you've hired a coach and he says he wants a camp, we need to give it to him. If he is asking for a 40-day camp, at least give a 21-day camp. You can't ask him to say that you will arrive straight from there, land to the airport, have 2 days, and then go play Australia, and expect him now that your job is on the line. That's very unfair. That's not unfair on him, it's unfair on any coach. So, if you tell a coach that this is what you've got, you're going to get everything you want, then if you don't succeed, your ass or your job is on the line. Phir baat banegi. So I think that we need to not only support them, we need to all come together as a country. All the clubs need to make this sacrifice. I am not saying that we need to give them a 40-day thing, but a 3-week camp is very much possible. All the ISL clubs need to come together and say a country comes first. Because, see, the value of the ISL will only go up if our Indian rankings go up. Suppose we are a top 50 league, the ISL's sponsors will be a different brand altogether. If we become the top 8 in Asia, different brand of sponsors will come and start following the game. But if we are going to be ranking in the hundreds, see, Indians love champions. Indians do not love losers, man. And that's why the amount of money which is in cricket. And if you win a gold medal in any Olympics, you become a millionaire or a billionaire overnight. Why do you do that? Because Indians love champions. Moment we do well somewhere in India, we'll start getting such huge public support. But for doing that, we need to actually have a movement where all the clubs come on one side. The federation is also on the same side. And this is a project not only for AIFF, this is a project for India. We need to get to the World Cup. To get to the World Cup, we need to be making sure that we are always in the top 2 or top 1 of our group. If we don't do that, we should stop dreaming.
Okay. Okay. So we have discussed about Indian football. So we will first Ranjit sir and Aunauda will just go to our main topic where we are discussing today. I think East Bengal, a club which is 104-year-old right now, has is in has gone through a very tough years. For last 20 years, they have not won a National League title. In last 3 years of ISL, it has been a very dismal performance by the club. Supporters, there was some sort of boycott last season when East Bengal was not playing well, and there were some issues with the investors and the officials that time. So East Bengal has gone through a very rough patch. So Ranjit sir, coming straight to the point to you, how you see East Bengal going through this season, because they have gotten some players now. You know, Nishu Kumar is there. They got in Nishu Kumar. They got in Harmanjot Singh Khabra, ex East Bengal player. Then they've got in Mandarao Desai. They've got in some good foreigners, I would say. Saul Crespo, Borja Herrera. Then Clayton Silva has been given an extension. I think the team is better shape. Nanda Kumar has also joined the team this time with Mahesh and Edwin Vansfall being there in the team. How do you rate this team? Do you think
I
East
would
Bengal
say
is in the
I would say this time they've done a good job in the transfer window. In fact, the kind of players they brought in, starting from their coach, it's like they're building a project. Earlier, their signings were more knee-jerk reactions to other signings of other clubs. Earlier, their signings were more like for 1 year, that let's get in for this year and not look at a long-term project. But the kind of players they brought, they're looking at playing exciting football, because each player you just mentioned is a game changer. And I really think that, like Aruna very clearly said, that Sunday's England needs to be played because just of the mentality. Some of the players here you brought in are mentality monsters. So and that's what was missing with East Bengal earlier. It wasn't the quality, it was the mentality. The mentality of playing for those colors was not there. The moment you have players who are willing to die for the shirt you put on, and the quality of these players is not much different where you go. So, for example, you brought in Khabra. This guy will die for you on the field before he lets the ball through. Even if it means it's the end of his career and that's the last tackle he ever makes, but he can save a goal, he'll do that for you. Now, imagine if you have actually 6, 7 of those guys there who are so loyal to you, you will make a difference. So instead of getting journeymen, or instead of trying to get the hotmost talent, this time you've gone with experience and loyalty over just hype, and people with technical abilities. So technical abilities means the kind of players you've signed up front from Mandaro and all these guys, they've been once well. These guys can make the game as an Indian. Now, the way you found foreigners along with the coach, again, it depends on how much leeway you guys give him. Now, if you're going to have your club officials, after giving him the leeway of signing and all this, interfering in the practice or the training or the way, see, once you give the coach the mandate and it's his head on the chopping block, then you've got to give him a free rope. You've got to let him do what he wants. You cannot tell him that, or you tell him, fine, that doesn't matter what the results are, we'll take the blame. That's another way to go about it. But if you don't have all these chops and changes in the middle of the season, and you start your season now, last year also, you guys left it so late to do the signings. So what was happening for the last 2, 3 years was, it wasn't that you didn't have a good team, but by the time the team was ready and they got into the season, it was already too late. This time, I would say you're kind of ahead of the curve of even half of the other clubs, ISL clubs there, because you made the signings on time. Now you need to have a solid preseason and then hope that there are no injuries. I think you can have a great season, and this can be the change what you were looking for.
So if you see other teams in the ISL, do you think this East Bengal team currently, what you have seen, it's very too early. I know it's very too early to comment. Do you see this East Bengal team going to the at least in the playoffs for the first time in ISL?
Yes, I would. I would, because there's at least some consistency where the sponsor and the corporate is concerned. There's no talk of Imami having to now think of being this is going and now you're having another sponsor coming in. So as long as you have, make sure that you have money. That means to pay the salaries and to make sure everything is running smoothly. The players which have been signed can get you there. I truly believe that.
Okay. Okay.
And by the way, that's so much required for Indian football. We can't have a club like East Bengal not in the top three every single year, because it really hurts the fans. And I know the management and everybody's trying, nobody's trying to come last or second last. But the amount of money they spend and then the results they get, there was something seriously wrong. It was probably decision making at the topmost level. I'm not talking about the coaches, I'm not talking about the signings, I'm just talking about going with different corporates again and again and not finding the right guy, not having a long term deal. So, unless you have a long term stability deal with somebody, it's very tough to make a long term winning deal.
Okay. Okay. So I think Mr. Bajaj had some valid points. I think he's very optimistic about East Bengal's chances this season. Onawada, what do you think? What do you think that where East Bengal can go this season, according what you have seen till now, the team building and what's happening outside the field? What do you think?
See, I can agree with Ranjit that the signings so far have been good. But I've said that on your channel in the past as well. I think important is to try and see if you can get a better goalkeeper. Who is going to be your centre back, Indian centre back? Your foreigners centre backs are still also not confirmed. Who's going to be your central Indian midfielder? So I again talk about the spine. I think the wings, the wing backs, the wings, they're all taken care of. There's quality on both sides, and there's a lot of experience in the players who've come in. And especially, I think Mahesh Naorem, if he can keep up what he's also now showing in the national team, he could take another jump in the season going forward. So that's an exciting player to watch out for, not only for East Bengal but for India as well. But again, I think the question is, do you want to go with Kamaljeet as your number one into the season, as your number one keeper? Who is your backup goalkeeper if you're given a backup? Are you able to sign Prabhsukhan Gill potentially? So that's the first question. And again, I go back to centre backs. Ivan Gonzalez is still on the books. They haven't been able to sign other players. Faris looks like he's going to play somewhere else, so he's not going to come. So who will be your Asian signing? So that's going to be sort of, I think, a key factor. You've got a good, good midfielders in Sal Crespo, in Borja Herrera. You have a good backup in Severio. Players, proven players in the ISL. The question is, how can you take it to the next level? And that's going to be the question. Carlos Cuadrat is coming in. He has time, unlike Steven. Steven didn't have time. The other coaches didn't have time. They, of course, were also in the bubble. So that is an own challenge for itself. So therefore, East Bengal looks better so far. But the ISL only starts at some stage, most probably in September. The others are also in the market, and there are a lot of changes in there. I think some surprising changes, some surprising transfers are going to happen in the next few weeks. And East Bengal needs to again try to fill those holes, fill those gaps in their armor, and then a top six finish, yes, surely is possible. Because I think on paper already now the team looks stronger and better than it was last season.
At least on paper, so we can be assured this time team is better. I think we are having
again. That's on paper. On paper, that's always a dangerous thing, right? Because at the end, you have to still play on the field. So again, it is not chess. You can't do it in theory, and in practicality, it's the same thing. Football has to be played.
It's a good
90
start.
plus minutes have
what
to be
Aruna
played.
means, it's like a good start. At least on paper, it's good. Because what he's saying is that couple of years down the line and last year, and sometimes it even didn't look good on paper. So but at least now it's looking good on paper. Yeah.
So I think there is one question to Ranjit. Ranjit sir, there is one question. I think one of our member, I think Gautam Da has given this question. He says, "Do you think Ranjit East Bengal, Imam East Bengal should go in for new young talent instead of costly stars? Is
I
that the
always
way
think that.
forward?"
I totally agree with Mr. Gautam Ghosh that that's what the way forward is. So somebody had tweeted that day that Mohun Bagan are making most of the signings of these young players, and most of them are from the Minerva Academy. Now, I mean, past Minerva Academy players. So somebody's asked, why should you do that? Why don't you just invest in making your own academy and producing stars like this? So I really think that's the way it should be done. It should be an academy which should be giving you at least 10 to 20% of your players, because that is a must. You have to have that. And East Bengal used to have a tradition and history of producing players from your academy. They used to always be good in all the youth leagues I've taken part in, be there amongst the top 5, top 10 of the 100 teams which were taking part. So they were always there and thereabouts. So it's not that they didn't know
But
how to run
but
an academy.
Ranjit, one point. Very often, East Bengal used to pick up players from lower level teams in Kolkata and build the youth team. So it's actually, they were
Yeah,
smart in that way.
yeah,
You were producing your own players. They were
yes,
picking up
yes,
players
okay.
from the small, from the fourth
You're,
division, fifth division in
I
Kolkata.
totally agree that. But you need to even see, it's not that they have lack of money. But now, on top of that, East Bengal has 2 crore rupees coming in from FSDN for this purpose. Now you don't even have to spend your own money. So they're getting a 2 crore budget to spend on the under 13, 15, 18 team. I can run an academy for that much very easily. In fact, the cost of my I League team is that. So I can easily do that. But and it's not rocket. So I'm not a genius, guys. It's not rocket science. It's about having the right training, diet, and making sure the right facilities from morning till night. The number of coaches East Bengal or any ISL team actually hires, and the level of quality of coaches they have, and the amount of free time they have while doing nothing in their fatly paid jobs and doing nothing, but just doing 2 hour sessions with the senior team, they should be written in the contract that they work in their academy as well. So you've got your senior staff teaching your junior boys the kind of football they want them to play in 3, 4, 5 years. And you've got to do that. You have to do that. That has to be a must. Not only for East Bengal, for India. So if you want Bengalis to be part of future Indian teams, there was a time when 50% of teams used to be from Bengal. 50% of Indian national teams I'm talking about. And now the time is gone. Why? Because there is no academy structure left in Bengal anymore at all. The academies are there, but not well supported ones. The ones who can actually, spend so much of money on the boys' training, diet, recovery, nutrition, games, specialist coaches, physiotherapists. If you give that environment to any kid starting at the right age from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they'll definitely make it as a pro player. I'm not even saying India player or international. Pro player banega hi banega. So it's not only about giving East Bengal players, it's about giving livelihood in football to footballers from Bengal just because you have a East Bengal academy. The number of players from my Minerva who do not make it to ISL teams are either in second division teams or I League teams or state teams. There is no one who sits at home. Not because Minerva is great, but because they've had 5, 6, 7 years of organized training. And one or two of them become somebody like an Anwar Ali. Now, if every club, that's why I'm saying we need 100 Minervas. So if everybody did what I did, then we would be getting 100 Anwar Alis to choose our 10 boys from. Because we would have 100 teams doing the same thing. So it's a must. It has to be a guarantee for any investor coming in that you have to focus on this. Because without an academy structure, I do not think you have a right to be called a proper full-fledged living club. Because you have to be born and brought up into those East. See, like you're born into East Bengal colors, man. But suppose, I'm just giving you an example, by the way. A father has a choice to make his son a footballer. His mother and father both are East Bengal fans. But the only academy nearby is Mohammedan Sporting or Mohun Bagan. So the father has a choice either to send him to his eternal rivals and wear those colors every day and have the kid coming back in those colors, or have your own. There's not even a choice. The father, imagine the kind of base you have. You have 5 million or 3-4 million people in India who will damn well send their kids, if they even have this much interest in football, only to East Bengal Academy. Why? Because blood. That's not there with Minerva. That's not there with any other club except Mohun Bagan and you. So this advantage is being lost.
There's an issue. I think I will add one question. I think 12th man Bangla, he's a question for you. He says, Ranjit sir, what do you think of giving Akash Tirki to East Bengal?
Yeah, if there is game time for him, why not? And the point is, it's about giving these boys, if there was a solid reserve team of East Bengal, and we knew that, okay, they will play in this league and they do it every year, and that means even if he doesn't make it to the first team, in the second team, he will get at least 20-30 matches. No problem. But if, like what Mohun Bagan is doing right now, by the way, they're just signing players. And obviously, most of them will be sitting on the bench. Like Komal Thatkal did. And he was wasted. So the worst thing for a young, talented player is to go and sit on the bench. He'd rather get game time in a second division or an I-League club than sit on the bench. Players are ruined that way. For example, people say, no, they shouldn't play at the higher level. No. Even if you play at the lower level and you're playing, you become better. For example, Anwar Ali. Anwar Ali played for 4th division team Himachal FC, then Tektro, then Delhi FC and Minerva in the Punjab League. 44 matches in the state leagues he played. And look at him now. So he didn't go down. He just had regular game time. That's it.
Correct. Unoda, I think what Ranjit sir was saying, I think he said a very important point. Right now, what is the main problem in Bengal football is we are not able to create a local star. Means, if you see, previously we had a set of players who consider mostly 50 to 60% of the national team pool of players were from Bengal. Currently, if you see under 17 team, which we recently played in Bangkok yesterday, there was only one guy from Bengal. So we were discussing in the senior team also. We don't have much of now Bengali flavor in the team. So if we actually, this is the problem. I think all of the 3 big clubs in Kolkata, including East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, and Mohammedan, they didn't focus on the youth development. They went for short-term solution to getting in players, buying players, and they wanted to get instant result. That ruined their future. Right now, Mohun Bagan, after the merger with yes,
Shan, there are 2 points. Very simple.
Hmm.
East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, Mohammedan, the focus has been always on the first team. Not today, over the last 100 plus years. Right? Mohun Bagan created an academy with Sale in Durgapur, and that was left to Sale to somehow run and survive. And they brought out, a Vashum and one or the other players. East Bengal also has brought out players. Ranjan Chaudhary was at the East Bengal Academy. A coach who's given India more than 200 international players at junior and senior level via Tata Football Academy and Pune FC. Ranjan Chaudhary, Ranjan Das said clearly, I am unable to do my work because the club is not willing to spend even a little bit of money on the academy. So that is the key problem of Bengal, and also the structure which the IFA doesn't want to, realize and understand, that the Kolkata Football League system, where you are, at the Premier level, you are professional, and then it becomes semi-pro amateur, and then you have age group teams in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th division. That doesn't work. You should have up to the 5th division downwards, all teams should be seniors, and all of these teams should be running under 19, under 17, under 15, under 13, and then below that, a grassroots program. All teams. Kolkata and its suburbs is so big that if we have 200 plus clubs running, there are enough kids to go into those academies. And another thing which people don't, and that's the same thing what has happened in the women's game. The women's national team at some stage was 90% Manipuri. Football has gone across India. That is one thing which has happened, which is a positive of the last 15, 20 years, that football has gone pan-India, especially the I-League has brought in regions into the national level, which you wouldn't have discussed. Players like Merajuddin Wadu and Ishfaq Ahmed were by chance finds when they went for an under-19 nationals to Bangalore, and ITI picked them up. Those kind of things used to happen. I am Vijayan was juggling the ball in Thrissur and someone from Kerala police saw him and then he picked him up. A lot of these stories are there. So
For
we need to
example,
create a system.
Aruna, for example, Akash Tirki they were talking about is from Jharkhand. Go on.
Yeah. And not being picked up by Tata Football Academy, and especially East Bengal, Mohun Bagan and Mohammedan were the biggest beneficiaries of that system. And how many players, sorry to say this so brutal, how many players' careers have they killed, right? But the other side of the things, and we have to be honest as well also on that side, is that if a player has the opportunity to get into an ISL team or an I-League team, the salaries are ridiculous in the ISL for the boys. So, and a lot of them come from humble backgrounds, right? So these are realities of why a kid would pick a team in the ISL rather than picking a team in the I-League and saying, listen, as you said, Anwar, a good example, let me get my matches, let me get that match experience. There are other players, Amarjeet Kiam, captain of the under-17s at some stage or at the lower age groups. I remember him, he was dominating Frankfurt, Leverkusen, Bochum in matches in midfield. Yeah. He's nowhere. I mean, he's not even in the B team of East Bengal. He was featuring last season. He was the captain. So again, your career path, your career choices are very, very crucial for footballers. I do understand that the players, there's the money factor involved. There are agents involved and all of these things. But sometimes going to a smaller team might be better than going to a bigger team. And the question is, what if you're going to a bigger team is, that is what I would tell every youngster who's 16, 17, 18, 19, who wants to sign for a big ISL team is, show me a pathway. Where do you see me in 5 years? Simple question. Because you have technical directors, sporting directors, whatever. Mujhe dikhao, where do you guys think am I going to be over there? I mean, that's the point that, and this thing, why long-term contracts are good. It gives the player stability. But also the club and the player need to be clear after 1 or 2 years and say, listen, I am not getting enough game time in the first team and your second team doesn't properly exist. Can you loan me out? Or even the worst case, sell me. But you need to be very, very clear of how you're going to get to that level. You know, we have these stories at the moment. Nikhil Pujari, Mehtab Singh, you know, players who've been around in the Indian football scene for 5, 6, 7 years. But you would have not considered them national team material. But the last season, they were very, very strong for their respective clubs. That's why they got into the national team setup. So therefore, our biggest problem in Indian football is, and the under-17s is a good example. I saw them in Stuttgart and I spoke to the Stuttgart coaches. They had worked with the Japanese team in Japan. He says, no disrespect to the Indian team, the Japanese are way ahead of you guys. With the way the school structure in regard to sports, the academies of the J League 1, 2, 3 teams involved in the school football, they do exposure camps very strategically, but they also play 40, 50, 60 matches a year. Our kids are not playing. Why are you forcing? And that's the thing that the new AIFF has to hopefully restructure next season. Don't put the emphasis on the AIFF, put the pressure on the state associations and sort of create regional bodies. Try and cut down on the travel and cost and all that stuff. Try to keep the cost low, but give the kids the best possible exposure of playing competitive football. You know, a place like Kolkata, I told the IFA secretary last year, I said, why aren't you organizing an under-19, under-17, under-15, under-13 league with 16 teams? Give them 30 matches. And the best 2 or 3 then move on to the national stage. Easily done. If it is East Bengal or Mohun Bagan, East Bengal, it could be United Sports. It could be, I don't know, Southern Shomiti, whatever. But give them that exposure. Our kids are not playing enough football. And then you expect them to go and play at Japan. I do say, okay, listen, we scored 4 goals. Brilliant. But on the other side, we conceded 8. I don't remember an Indian team conceding 8 goals in a match. You know, that should be a worry as well. So we need to be very clear. Pathway, development, organization, and the onus is on clubs like East Bengal and Mohun Bagan. They need to be the leaders of this. And the fans need to understand that. Even, and I've said that when East Bengal came to the ISL, I said East Bengal is not ready to play ISL in 2020. You are jumping the ship because Mohun Bagan has come in because they were smart enough to join hands with Mr. Goenka. That's the reality. East Bengal could have won the I-League in the meanwhile and then on merit have gone up. But that is dimag. Use your brains.
My God. It would have been, I'm not just saying it, it would have been a cakewalk. You would have been able to walk into it and nobody would have been. So now, instead of now looking for a sponsor to pay the 18 crores or 16 or whatever the franchise fees is, that money would have been in your pocket to pay for the players. Yes, you wouldn't get revenue, but rather revenue would have been good enough for you to be able to run it without even asking for a sponsor from anyone. It's I totally agree with everything you've said, that you know that they need to be the leaders, because see, they have been the leaders. They've been the leaders for the last 100 years. We are here today because of East Bengal and Mohun Bagan. If there was no East Bengal and Mohun Bagan, Indian football would have been a dead entity long time ago. They have kept us alive through the worst times of Indian football, when there was nobody there. Okay, and they are the leaders because they've not only got. I'm not talking about just the fan bases. It's just that they are the embodiment of Indian football. Even though this is from Bengal, but you cannot mention Indian football without these two names. So they have to be the leaders. They can't be the last in youth development. They have to be the topmost. And have they done that before? Yes. So if they were doing it with sale and doing it, but see, do they have the money to do it? Yes. Do they have the resources? Yes. The willpower? No. Because like you said, they're looking for immediate results. Now, all these ISL clubs, which are franchisees, which have been born 6, 7, 8 years ago, they don't have a legacy. That means you do not, I'm being honest, you do not know tomorrow some of them might just shut down. Because 5 of them out of 10 of them have shut down. East Bengal, Mohun Bagan will never shut down. So that means you can plan for the future, man. You can plan for 10, 20, 100 years. 100 years they will be in East Bengal and in even a Mohun Bagan. The way Japan football knows, Japan football will be there in 100 years. And Japan football is a 100-year plan, a 50-year plan, and a vision which AIFF has just now copied. I mean, not copied, at least try to come up with the same kind of thing. But like you said, Japanese school football, and again, I'm not just saying it, is tough competition for any I-League or ISL team. I'm talking about just if the Indians are playing. Any day. Japanese school football I'm talking about. That's how you go in. A Japanese school football final match is attended by 60, 70, 50,000 people. Not just because they want to support the schools, because it's so bloody good. Yeah, I don't know.
Correct.
Reliance Foundation went a few weeks ago to Japan and lost by 11 goals to a Japanese school team. And the Reliance Foundation is one of the best teams in India. So we have to also realize, again, of course, I would, and I said that to Bibiana when I met him in Stuttgart. I said, I would love your team to qualify for a World Cup on merit. I would love to, and we all agree on that. All of us who love Indian football would like us to qualify. But the reality check is, when I saw that grouping, I thought, wow, you've got Japan. And when you talk to anybody, they'll say, listen, Japan, by far the best. And the Japanese are just organized and structured. They are the way they are, the Japanese, right? They've shown it. Uzbekistan is a typical sort of a Russian style of football, which is physical, which is strong, which is Caucasian, so to say, yeah. And they are technically gifted and good players. And Uzbekistan has been doing well. They are one of those teams who should have been playing the World Cup. They sadly have never qualified for a World Cup. And Vietnam is the rising power of Asian football. Vietnam has done in the last 10 years what we should have been doing in the last 10 years.
Exactly.
And that is the reality of where we stand. But our problem is, of course, we need to develop our top level football. That is one thing we need to develop. But we also, on one side, grassroots, but also that youth football structure doesn't exist. The AIFF indirectly is being forced into doing what it's been doing and trying to sort of, jumble up teams and then City ke bahar jao, exposure low. Of course, 3-3 against Real Madrid is a nice result, but it doesn't say anything. It's a friendly. Is Real Madrid under 17s playing its A team? Of course they're not. Are they seriously going into the match? Of course not. We are. They are not. The real challenge is when you play the Asian Cup. That is the thing. Again, Intercontinental Cup, nice thing to play. But the SAF Cup, that's now currently the real challenge for India.
Yeah, it wasn't. Aruna, yeah. But SAF Cup wouldn't have been. Last year, I wouldn't call SAF Cup a challenge. This year, yes, you're right. A challenge.
But Ranjit, to some extent it is because we expect always to win, right? So that challenge was always there. But this time around, you have the bonus of having two nations which are as strong or maybe stronger. Again, Kuwait is the interesting one, which I'm looking forward to, because that might be the precursor of another final in a few days. And again, Lebanon was a good test. So for us, it is important. But where are we? And East Bengal and Mohun Bagan, if you look at it when you look at youth development, no disrespect, how small or how big you are, Minerva has done more than these guys in the last 10, 15 years. FC Goa, if you look at what Bengaluru FC have created, even my former team, Mumbai City, has now started and doing stuff because they said, listen, let's focus first on grassroots and then move into youth football. So they've done it, first team on one side, but grassroots on the other. Now they're trying to merge.
Because
And
of
it'll take
them,
another 3 to 5
I'm
years.
so impressed with Mumbai, bhai, because under 6, they're the only ones in the country which are doing under 6. And that's what the whole country needs to be
But that
doing.
was started in year 1. But that was, I remember, Dinesh Nayak came in and said, listen, we need to focus on the kids. And it was started in the first year itself. We said grassroots. That's why Mumbai City, myself, Nishan Mehra, Dinesh, all the others said, listen, on one side, of course, the first team, let's focus grassroots. We can't build a youth system out of nothing. We don't have a youth system. We didn't even have infrastructure.
And it's not overnight.
So you
imagine,
have to.
it's because you're starting at that
And
age. Come on, you've got to wait 10 years for the product to come out. So don't say, give it to me now. You can't.
So but the point is that, again, for Bengal football to go back, and it is important that Bengal football gets back its glory days, so to say, that you need to do those things. There is no shortcut in football. Football is a sport. There is no shortcut. You have to work hard. Mizoram, for example, I always say it's a brilliant example of what Tete, and we talk about Tete, but the whole bunch of people that are there in Mizoram who've done it, the people who run the clubs, who run the youth centers, who run everything, not only in Aizawl, but across the state, they are creating the JJs, the Dikas, the Changtes, and whoever they are, the next generation of players from Mizoram. Manipur, of course, as well. Manipur is another example with all the problems. These problems which are cropping up at the moment have been there all this while. But they still have been able to bring up quality footballers, male, female, hockey players, boxers, this, that, and everything. Because sports is something which is there. So if Bengal needs to understand that it's not just discussions. And, I just saw that the IFA secretary today said, oh, we're trying. No, trying is a nice thing to say. Trying is not going to be enough. You need to start doing it. If the need be, go elsewhere and have a look and see what other states, exactly. This was thinking and trying. When I was in Kolkata, we used to have better school tournaments at that stage for under 12s and under 14s than you have today. Kolkata had things in place at school level where you had the elite schools and the poorer strata of society schools playing in the same competition, where the richer schools were actually ensuring that the kids were getting booths to play against each other. That happened in the 80s and 90s. We're forgetting that those things existed. And infrastructure-wise, Kolkata needs to think infrastructure. We don't have proper fields. Of course, have many stadiums, but we're in the monsoons. They'll play the Kolkata League in the monsoons. Are you playing football? Are you playing, I don't know, kabaddi, wrestling, or what are you playing? Rugby? Infrastructure is the other thing that Bengal needs to think about. And that is something, East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, one ground, one stadium, Maidans is nice. No, you need to have premises with 5-6 grounds. And again, you can't share it with hockey. You can't let the cricket team train on that pitch. All of that is happening on those Maidan grounds. All of that. The army says 1st or 15th of October, 15 days. You know what? The ground needs to recover before the winter comes. Ground shut. No one trains on the army says that. And luckily they listen to the army. Otherwise the grounds would be even worse. So these are the realities of Kolkata that the Maidans has created a lot. But the Maidans need to come into the year 2023 or into the future now and realize that we need to move out and need to do things. Mamata Banerjee and the government would surely give land to the government, as they've done to the AFF for the Center of Excellence, for free. So therefore, all these issues it's a non-starter, but you need to have that vision, that thinking. Just don't think about what when people ask us. They always talk about transfers. We always talk about, are kaun player sign kar raha hai, ye player, wo player. No, first team is good. Focus on your your youth, your B team and your youth development. Create again. I remember in 2019, Z Bangla came forward. They did the under 19 league in Kolkata
Yes.
with television coverage, with everything, with Shabang, with the final Mohun Bagan East Bengal at the Mohun Bagan ground. It got cancelled because the fans went after each other. But again, that's a different discussion. But they've been efforts.
But
So
see,
work
but
on
it was
these
an
things.
under 19 tournament and the fans were involved because it was their teams.
Yes.
Exactly.
So they were willing to
That is
even
the
fight and die for their under 19s. So they care as long as the clubs gave them that.
correct.
So you mean to say, I'll give you an example.
But the management.
So if you mean to say, I'm just giving an example, under 15 or under 18 I League, and the final is at Kolkata and it's Minerva versus Mohun Bagan, you think it will not be a full house, or East Bengal versus Minerva, it will not be a full house? The same way if it's Minerva playing Mohun Bagan even in the seniors, because each and in this case especially, all the kids in the Bengal team will have parents and their entire families and communities sitting in the bloody ground. And I've faced that. I've faced that in a final with Mohammedan Sporting in my under 13, in a full in Barasat, what it means to them and the parents and everybody else. Patthar khaye humne because we were galti se we beat them. Because they care so much. And all of them were more passionate, by the way, than the fans which I see with the senior team. Because that is their blood playing. Not only just their kids, real kids who they know and grown up in front of them. So I think it's a must even to create more fans, because it doesn't matter that boy and that family who's played once for that color, even if it's under 13, under 11, under 15, under 18, is that family's cherished moment for their lifetime. They will place it there and they will ensure that the entire family goes for those matches. And not only those matches, even the senior matches, by the way. Yeah.
Correct.
But
correct.
that is
So-
what the need of the hour is, right? It needs to be an understanding in Bengal that for these big clubs, again, ATK Mohun Bagan are now in the past started last year as ATK Mohun Bagan with their trials. Now they're going to continue as Mohun Bagan Super Giant. Why? Because even Juan Ferrando said, guys, we need to have that structure in place. They brought in coaches from Spain who are trying to build that youth system. East Bengal needs to sort of sort out its world in the first team, and then build on those things. You had those opportunities. Mohammedan Sporting again is fighting with his investor, where the investor is saying, hey, listen, I want to do youth football. You didn't want to do youth football. So these are, and you've got the smaller teams. Again, United Sports very often comes up with Nawab and Alugda, who have done a lot. You know, they've gone to the villages, they've gone to rural areas.
But Nawabda is
they've
the
looked for players.
perfect fight. Nawabda is the perfect example of the willpower you're talking about in the vision. So if a Bengali like him can have that vision and that willpower, why can't others? Look what Nawabda single-handedly has been able to do because he focused on the youth. Look at his team, is all his products. So it's possible. And they play at the highest level, man. It's not that they are, anywhere less than the other Bengalis who are playing in the I-League or ISL clubs. For example, Tarak Hembram deserves to be in the Indian team. That's how fucking good he is.
Correct. So, Ranjit sir, I think there was one question. I think many of the people were asking from East Bengal. Actually, Ronaldo was also saying this. Transfer market update के लिए यहाँ पर बहुत आदमी लोग पागल हो जाते हैं. हिमांशु जागरा से भर गया क्वेश्चन. तो हिमांशु जागरा का क्या हुआ? वो चले गए अगेन.
Himanshu को I would have if Himanshu loved to stay there because he didn't love the management. He loved the fans. He says, I'm crazy about the fans. What the fans give me. He says, even when I score in the Reliance League, the amount of love I get, you don't get that anywhere. And what they want, and they want me to be there, so I really want to be there. But for that to happen, they need to actually contact Himanshu and make him an offer. And he has to be in matching with the team of the coach. So the coach or the management now feels that they're not in his things and they're not going to make an offer. That's totally on them. You can't force a club to make an offer. Now, what I would like for Himanshu right now, yes, we've got an offer again from 2 big clubs. But again, that is going to be, they've already said it to us that he's not going to make it in the first team, that he's going to be in the reserve team. We want to just do this so that no other club is able to sign him. So that is, I think, a waste, because now looking at India, like he said, 101 वाला जो गोल है कोई नहीं मिलेगा, और वो जो chance है, there are 3 people who I'm seeing. One is Gurkirat, one is Himanshu, and third is Vikram Pratap. I can't see anyone else who have, I'm not saying they're the next Sunil Chhetri, But I'm saying there's nobody even in that line other than that. लाइन में नहीं है. और ये नहीं है कि कोई 21-22 साल का 20 साल का स्ट्राइकर पैदा हो जाएगा जो हमें इंडियन फुटबॉल को पता ही नहीं था. ऐसा नहीं होने वाला है. यही है. ओके, यही है.
ठीक है सर, आपके लिए
and a point to add, which I think Ranjit can't
Bolo.
say, but I think for Himanshu is also important. He has to play, right? And that is the problem of being a 10-12 minute player in the ISL makes no sense. I think that is
Exactly.
Vidyasagar is a good example. You know, was playing at East Bengal, went to Trout, top scorer, goes to a BFC, doesn't play, goes to Kerala Blasters, doesn't play. Where is he? He's not even playing for the reserves in the Kerala League. So that is the danger that especially strikers have in an Indian context. So for and again, Himanshu has one advantage in his stepfather is sitting talking to us, and he will hopefully ensure that this boy gets the exposure.
Game time.
And the best important is though Delhi FC though you have a team in the I League, so maybe I don't know. If you want to stay in the I League, maybe
So
he
he's
plays Delhi
going
FC.
to
But I'm
be-
not saying anything. I'm not.
No. So you said it. So let's the transfer market make it clear, and now let's make it clear. Himanshu staying on a Delhi FC. Every Indian fan will be seeing him getting a lot of game time.
Okay, great. I think this is a breaking that Himanshu Jangra is with the. Thank you, Ranjit. So people will love in Kolkata. At least he'll get some time. Actually, very. He was one of the fan favorites.
And then next
when he
year, maybe East Bengal will give an offer which makes sure that he stays in the team and he plays. So we have no problem there at all.
Okay,
Because if he becomes a 10 or 12 goal striker as an Indian, then he'll get game time in East Bengal. Guaranteed.
Okay. So one thing, Mr. Bajaj, I think this one question coming. What do you make of the officials in Kolkata? Means I don't name anybody. Means there are names given, but what do you think the officials' mindset in running the club? Do you think is it at par with the other corporate ISL clubs? I'm not saying about Mohun Bagan.
I
Mohun
tell you,
Bagan is a
officials,
bit
there are two
different.
types of officials. One is the legacy officials. Their thing is, and it's not only for East Bengal, it's the same
Everybody.
for Mohun Bagan, it's the same for Mohammedan Sporting. Legacy officials want to stay in power. They're like politicians. I've realized now that there's no difference between officials of these clubs and politicians because that's what their entire aim is that year. And that is why probably academies are not doing well because their only thing is making sure their fans know that we get the best player, best signing, most expensive signing, or titles. They don't care about this because that's what they want to make sure. And then I thought it would be a good corporate, mixture that we have with Mohun Bagan and Goenka. And it proved that as long as the officials are totally kept out of the professional working of the club can do well. If they are able, so no one's asking the club officials not to be part. They are part in life of the parcel of the club. But they should not be involved in the actual football process. They can be outside the football process. Everything other than football, they should handle. Everything on the field, it should be left to the think tank and then hired by the corporate people. Or even hired by them, by the way. Doesn't matter as long as they're just left alone. So they need to separate their identities. I know it's going to be tough for them because, again, 100 years of training and that mindset and that thing which has happened is going to be tough. And that is why only 3 clubs are actually dealing with it. And that's where Mohun Bagan has taken a lead. Like, I don't know, again, very rightly said. They were intelligent enough to partner at Sanjeev Goenka at the right time. And East Bengal made the foolish decision of going in at the wrong time just because Mohun Bagan was there. They could have just waited, won the I-League, gone in like Rounders Punjab has gone in. And trust me, imagine if they had won last year also the winner was supposed to go to the ISL. I guarantee you last year East Bengal had won, they would have gone through, ISL would have opened its door free of cost to them. They wouldn't have cancelled the promotion.
Correct.
Or this year, or next year, they're 3 years they could have gone up.
Okay. I say thank you, Ranjit sir. Anwar Ali has joined Mohun Bagan Super Giant. So, Sanjeev, Mr. Bajaj, one thing people are asking, have always asked me is that what Mr. Bajaj is doing is different. I think Renedy Bhai, again, a very dear friend, and how he's doing differently in Classic, how you're doing it differently in Minerva. I think these are the lessons to be learned for the future of any clubs or in Kolkata especially, because in 100 years we have not able to build up a proper academy, so-called proper academy, which he was saying. I think East Bengal has an academy, what I know, but again, that is something I think that doesn't have any existence as of much, what I know. That academy is there in pen and paper, it is there, but I don't think it's a great thing. It's not nothing compared to what Classic or Minerva has done, is able to produce. And here it comes my next question to you. Don't you think so? Again, if we don't build the supply chain for for the next generation, we will suffer again most, because you see Indian football, as Arunavada correctly said. I think Indian football is evolving every year, and you are getting more and more competitive. More and more teams are coming up from different regions in through
I
I
really
League.
think that East Bengal and Mohun Bagan are the heart of Indian football. And as the heart of Indian football, they need to take responsibility on themselves. Like what I did, even though if I see, my thing is that, okay, I will get India to the World Cup 2034. But imagine if East Bengal and Mohun Bagan come to the same decision, then we will get India to the World Cup in 2034. And that's how we will focus our entire thing. We'll get there, man. With me, people still have a doubt. Why? Because I'm not a multi-billionaire who can give all the facilities, exposure towards everything else. But imagine if East Bengal and Mohun Bagan say, we are going to get India to the World Cup, if that's all it takes. And imagine if they're able to do it. They don't become icon clubs of India, they become icon clubs of the world. And trust me, if they have millions of fans in India now, they'll have billion. Because they'll be responsible for getting there. So we need to force them as fans. All East Bengal fans need to come together and start making a noise that we want to have an academy structure. We need to have that. And that's the part and parcel of any good, solid club, especially somebody who's been around for 100 years. So there is the money is not the valid excuse now anymore. Then the ISL, they get 2 crore rupees just for having an academy. So if they can't do it, I am there for them. I would love to make sure that somebody's asking, why don't you open an academy in Calcutta? I don't want to open my academy in Calcutta. I would love to partner up with somebody like in East Bengal or Mohun Bagan and run their academy for them.
Okay.
Because you've got 2 crores, what are you doing with it? Because if you're going to spend those 2 crores again to make another signing in the seniors, that's a crime. That's a crime.
Correct. So, if I come to the, I think Onavada, then we'll go to the last part of the interview. We are 1 hour past the time, because we were discussing many things and we went to the. I think Onavada, what do you think that Mr. Quadrat can bring into the table this time? I think he will be coming under a lot of pressure, and I've asked many of the journalists in Bengaluru. They are saying it will be a different ball game for him this time, because Bengaluru is much considerate. And if you see Simon Grayson's performance last season also, where he struggled in the first part of the ISL, then after the second part, when Bengaluru made a comeback, life was a bit easy for him. But for Quadrat, there will be people with micromanagement skills coming and judging his coaching styles, and how would he get to this pressure? Because Kolkata is full of pressure, because if you don't perform in the one game, you'll be a lot of pressure. I remember Steven losing his school many of the times last year. So who was a part of Indian football for a long time?
See, the point is with Quadrat is he comes out of BFC, out of a JSW Cosmos, which is very organized, very structured, and he was there at the time when the club was very, very successful. He was originally an assistant coach, and reached the AFC Cup final. He won the ISL. So he was there in the good times. And again, BFC have struggled over the last 2-3 years. That's a reality with frequent coach changes, with players leaving, with Manda Tamane leaving. Which was very interesting. Manda leaves, and then from that match onwards, they were just winning. Football is a crazy game with these kind of things. East Bengal is a totally different ball game. I've talked to people who know Carlos quite well, and I've said Carlos needs to be prepared that if he just loses 2 matches at the start, he is directly under pressure, because the question will be raised: is this coach good enough to coach East Bengal? That's a reality. He's not going to have that, friendly period and all. And again, and people will make judgments about him, which are again, and so I'm not going to come to the social media angle, which is a problem in itself globally when it comes to, forget sports, just generally. He will not have the time to settle down. Again, the squad looks better than last season. He has characters in there who can help him, especially characters who've been players of his. Cabra, Nishu, all of these boys have played under him under BFC. Especially Cabra is going to be a very, very important man for Carlos, because Cabra not only was at BFC with him, but Carlos was his, is an ex-East Bengal captain, so he knows the club inside out. But you have the media, you have the fans, you have social media, you have a lot of YouTube channels these days discussing East Bengal. So there's going to be a lot of fans who will be critical about him. But he is someone who is a good, even though he's Spanish, he's not English, he's a good articulator. He's very friendly. He's got a very friendly demeanor. I mean, that's the positive that Igor Stimac gets away with, where Igor Stimac is, is a good communicator. Steven wasn't, Steven isn't. If Steven Constant is honest to himself, it is not his best skill to communicate with the media. And that was one of the biggest problems. So if he can charm the media, maybe he gets 1 or 2 matches extra. But if I look at the other teams in the ISL also, most of the teams are not only building, but rebuilding, are strengthening. Again, in theory, on paper, this will be the best ISL that's coming up. That ISL 10 will have some really good names, even on the foreigner side. And the big Indian boys who you never thought would switch, have switched. That and Anirudh Thapa leaves Chennai and goes to Mohun Bagan for, again, happy for him. He gets a lot of money, but those are ridiculous figures for a player. I mean, that's the reason why these boys don't want to go abroad. That's also a reason why they don't want to challenge of going outside. But again, I'm happy for the boys, but it's a reason. So therefore, Quadrat has a lot on his plate. He has more time than Steven. Steven came in relatively late. Robbie Fowler came in late. Manolo came in. All these guys came in very late, and just had to get ready and then, pack their bags, come to India and then start coaching. He has time. He's got 2-3 months to settle down, understand. That's good. But the pressure is already on Carlos Quadrat. The pressure is already on him. I would love to ask him a question. Are you able to sleep at the moment? Or are you already worried and thinking, when am I landing in Kolkata? The love of the fans is great, but when you lose, it's not love. It is pure open hate. So that is also something that you have to take. So that's a difficult challenge in this.
Yes, a difficult challenge. So if I come to the last part of the discussion, I think we need to then close this discussion. This is a lovely discussion right now. So हो सके तो बहुत देर कर सकते थे, but I think everybody is a time bound nation. So Ranjit sir, coming to you, how you see? I think Mr. Omlan's question, Mr. Bajaj, where are you seeing Indian football at present? Are we in the same place where we have gone a step forward or a step backward? What do you think? And another thing, I want to add one thing. And and I think the present AIFF completed 1 year last year. This I think they just completed 1 year, no? So how you rate them? How they have performed in
they are September.
Huh. So I think they are good disbanded. So how you rate them? How they have been working in the last 12 months?
First, 9 months. Going with Amlan's question first. Seeing Indian football at present depends on what they're talking about. Indian football is huge. Are you talking about the ISL? Are you talking about the I-League? ISL, yes, like Arunav says, it's going to be the most exciting I-League because the kind of players which are coming in, foreigners coming in, quality which has gone up, everything which has gone up from the infrastructure and the new team from the I-League which is coming up, Round Glass Punjab. That's exciting. So, new things happening. That's great. Now, are we going to do well in the AFC Champions League? That's where the test of the ISL comes. If we are going to be able to do well there, like Mumbai City did, and we almost, did pretty well there, we'll be able to get more and more exposure and more ranking points and, better at it. The same way, AFC Cup with Mohun Bagan coming up now. With that, Mohun Bagan should be expected to win it. I mean, or go up to the semi-finals or finals again, because it's the AFC Cup. Then let's go to I-League. I-League with the kind of teams which they're saying 5 have applied. ATK, by the way, ATK the Kashi is coming through Varanasi. That's what I've heard. That's going to be the big deal. Then TVS and Jindal's children are getting the Delhi team. And
Yes.
with Namdharis coming in, even though it's from a little village in Namdhari, but people who live in Bangalore know what Namdharis are because they've got shops all over and they're a huge company. They're a $200 million turnover company. So it's a lot of money coming in the I League because they know now that it's open. I mean, anyone is good enough, you can make so they're proper businessmen. They know their valuation can be 10x if they get into the I League now and within a year or two, they are able to get into the ISL. Now,
Correct.
let's come to the juniors. Are we doing well? No, I don't think so. Can we do better? Obviously. Because we need to make an under 14 team immediately, under 15 team immediately. We need to conduct the under 13, 15, 18, 16, whatever age group leagues. Like, I'm not saying we have to have at least 30 matches a year, 40 matches a year. Unless they have 30, 40 matches, no matter what you do and what exposure trips you do with the best players, it's never going to work. Then let's come to futsal. Very exciting to say that for the first time in our history, our name has been there in the futsal draw. We've got a great draw as well. Hopefully, we get a camp very soon, which is going to have heard is happening. And if you are able to do well, that opens up a totally different avenue and revenue source for AIFF and avenue for footballers to earn money. Because running a futsal club is much easier than running a football club. And talking about the season, talking about the money, anyone who wants to get in and is close the football club because he can't afford the whole season, it's easier to do that. But that's really supporting football because the more futsal there is, the better the football will be in the country. And that's been proven by places like Portugal and basically street football, man. It's like gully football. Now, and where the women are concerned, I've always believed the women have a chance to qualify for the World Cup much faster than the men. But the amount of effort which is being spent on the women is 1/100th. So whatever we see in women is in spite and despite of the federation and everybody's apathy towards them. For example, right now you saw the women teams of Kerala Blasters had to take the cup because of the fine applause. So that is the kind of, it's not only Kerala, it's about us. See, for example, Minerva, I can say we don't have a women's team. So these attitudes all over in India have to change, but that can only change when they don't make it punitive to have a women's team. For example, the kind of rules they've come up with now, where you have to have a minimum expenditure of that much, not many people can afford that. So
Correct.
in the lower rungs, I don't know, say even for juniors, you've got to make it really cheap to participate in football. For 13s, 15s, 18s, the women. The more expensive and niche you try to make it, that's not how grassroots grow. So a lot of positive steps have come out of it. Like for the last 6 months, for the first time, like I said right in the beginning of the show, for the first time, India has played so many international matches and we still have to pay so many more. That has given India, Indians who were never with football to connect with Indian football. I saw so many cricket fans connecting with India, Pakistan because we were playing Pakistan, And then if we go to what our aims are in 10 years, will this Vision 2047 help? Yeah, if the vision is followed. See, it's about having a vision and it's about following it with a plan, step-by-step plan, and then working backwards if you're ticking off all the back boxes. So, have we set high enough goals? Yes, we have. Are we doing stuff to get there in the first 6 months? Some ways yes, some ways no. We will come to know more about what this federation is after probably a year. We can probably give them a report card because 6 months in football is very, very small. You start making plans in 3 months and start applying them. By the time the plans come to fruit, it will take at least a minimum year. So I would give them that leeway.
Okay. And I think, and the summation of the AIFF part, if you ask, what do you think? How they have been running the show for last 9 months? Your understanding? You said me that they gave good time for the player. National team got lots of matches.
So they've given good time for the players. That means good number of matches, which the earlier federation did not. Now, are we going to continue it? And it's not just a one-off flash in the pan year because it's their first year. So it has to be consistently this. If we play the same number of matches every year, our ranking will definitely go higher. That's the only way to take it higher. The more we concentrate on Champions League and AFC Cup, our ranking will go higher. But if we then abandon it and then we don't follow the roadmap which has been laid out by them, then obviously not. Like the Blue Cubs plan and the other developmental plans, if they actually followed the way they're supposed to be done, we can have a revolution. Why not?
Okay. Okay. Unamuda, your summation, how you think Indian football has gone for currently? Where do you see Indian football stand? Have we gone upward, downward, or we are in the same place? What do you think about Indian football as a whole, not the
It,
national?
see, overall, I think we are developing, but the problem is that others are developing as well, and they're developing faster than us. I think that's our biggest problem.
Yeah.
And I, as the only person who has seen India live at the last two Asian Cups, if I look at 2011 and 2019, especially 2011, I would have said 2011 the team was better than what we have now. But they still have 6 months to prove me wrong that they could get better than the 2011 team, and that's the onus on Igor Stimac and the team to be better than that, because again, it is of a similar level of competition. Bob was a different era. Bob tried everything. Bob understood. Bob Houghton is one of the few coaches who's worked across the world, and he knew, when facing Australia number 1 at the time in Asia, Bahrain was number 5 in Asia, South Korea was number 3 in Asia. That was the most difficult grouping that you could get. This time around, it gets somewhat similar because Australia and Uzbekistan are really tough ones. Syria is one where I don't know where Syria stands. They have a lot of their players playing across the Middle East or in the US or wherever, so they've got that international exposure. And we saw, even though we beat Pakistan 4-0 and Pakistan lost 4-0 today against Kuwait, give them time, the European-based players will make them better. That's a reality that there is. ISL, if you look at what the ISL wanted to do in 2014, if you look at it, it's going to enter the 10th season. I think the ISL has helped on certain fronts, which is better infrastructure, be it stadiums, be it training facilities, better match organization, much better broadcast, but the quality of foreigners coming into India is much better. But our players, I feel we have a problem that a lot of players have that 1 or 2 standout seasons, but then are not consistent enough. And some of the players are technically not as good as that generation which Bob had. That is a worrying thing. What is the level of coaching at youth level? That's something which we're not discussing. Where do we stand? Are our coaches at the grassroots at youth level, are they good enough? Are they implementing things? Because I see a lot of coaches are running after those coaching degrees to get jobs. Are they really with their heart in that football thing? Are they willing to do what? Are they willing to walk that extra mile? And that is what is needed. Are we doing that? Ranjit mentioned women's football. Women's football has come quite a bit, but again, it is very minimal. And I also think it is forcing men's clubs, and I've said that to key people in the women's committee as well, forcing men's clubs to have women's teams is not going to work. It has not worked in Europe, and it will not work in India. It will not work anywhere else. Even in the US, you see, they have women-specific clubs. Angel City is only successful because they've got some of the biggest women in the world of Hollywood, US biz, tech, whatever. They've invested into the team. We've got that story in Germany, in Victoria, Berlin, 3rd division at the moment. But key German female entrepreneurs, female faces, all of them have invested in the team. So that is something, again, it has switched in Germany, the big teams, or not in Europe in general. Man United did not have a good women's team. Real Madrid didn't have a women's team. Real Madrid picked up a Madrid-based women's team to play in the Spanish Femina La Liga. So we need to decide what we're doing. Our youth structure is a huge problem at the moment because the new AFF didn't do anything about it. I understand we're coming out of a pandemic, you're trying to structure everything, but youth football per se at a national level, except the under-17s, did not happen. That will be a big challenge. That is, are you able to structure it right? Are the kids getting that exposure that we need? Because otherwise, we'll have this pipe dream of qualifying for under-17 or maybe even under-20 World Cup, and we're not going to get even close to it. Because Japan, Uzbekistan, let's forget about the Saudis and the Koreans and whatever we have, the Iranians and all. And all these countries have problems. How can it be that Syria, a country in war, and Afghanistan, with all its problems, these countries are able to challenge us. So we need to, and the stakeholders need to come together. The FF at the moment is in a lot of, Ranjit will know that there's a lot of trouble in the FF at the moment once again, a lot of trouble in the background. So they need to sort it out for once and for all, I said that, Ranjit, you were there. I said a lot of things, people did not want to accept it at the time. And I sadly was true. I said FIFA would ban us, right? No one wanted to listen. And I said the hard fact.
Yeah, but bro, that's what I'm saying. I think FIFA is a fucking bully. FIFA is the most corrupt organization in the world.
No.
So them trying to teach us something is like trying to kettle trying to pot the the pot black. We've seen Netflix documentaries and seen proof that the most corrupt people are even still right now the general secretary who's running FIFA, Mr. Infantino. See, I say it also like it is, and I say the truth, and I drop truth bombs. The most even
Ranjit,
more
you have
corrupt.
to differentiate between in FIFA or even with the AFC, between the political side of things and between the operational side of things.
No, but the political side runs it, nah, bhai. The political side runs it. This very World Cup was sold. Qatar should have never been given the World Cup. So imagine an organization which sells its soul and gives the World Cup to a country like Qatar, which is smaller than Chandigarh, is obviously corrupt. So there's no, if they ban us, we should ban them. So I have a totally different opinion about that. Bro, see, this is what I'm saying. Where commercialization takes over football and the commercial interests are overtaking footballing interests, like the great plan of coming up with the European Super Six is what ISL exactly is. So, lot of places where I totally don't agree, because FIFA should not have the things of banning us for doing what? For doing their job. They were supposed to get Praful Patel out because he had overstayed his elections. If they had done their job and put a FIFA normalization committee like they did everywhere, they didn't do it because Praful Patel is the best friend of AFC's president and he's the one who got him inside. See, that's what I'm trying to say. So if they had done their job, this wouldn't have come. Supreme Court wouldn't have done that. Supreme Court had to get that guy out because he's overstayed his election. He was a dictator.
Supreme Court stepping in is a simple thing of what they
That's what I'm saying. You cannot, that's the thing. That's where we differ. See, that's where we differ. FIFA or anyone else, even IOC for that matter, there is no one bigger than our Supreme Court. If you live in India, you will not understand because you're in Germany. If you live in India, as an Indian, there's nothing bigger than the Supreme Court. How dare a sporting organization tell the Supreme Court of India what to do? So if I was there and if I had little bit of guts, which this government did not have, they should have backed out and told them, and we would have come to know what would have happened. The FIFA World Cup was in under 17 was needed more by them. If we had actually cancelled them and told them to FO, they would have been in big shit. You were saying that they had a lot of people to do it. No, they didn't. I know the inside story. They were desperate.
Of course they did. Of course they did.
That's what I'm saying. They need, listen, understand what's happening in India right now. Have you seen the US?
No.
See the US. Go and see what's happening in the US now. For every even small comment which is not supposed to be applauded, people are giving standing ovations to Modi. That is the power we have. We need to assert that power and not tell people that, sporting organizations are bigger than the Supreme Court. No, they're not. Supreme Court came in at the right time. What they did was totally right. So Praful Patel had to be removed because he was a dictator. Moment a dictator comes in, Supreme Court has to step in. So if FIFA doesn't do his job properly, that's what it had to happen. At least we got Praful Patel out. At least now, for the first time in history, Kalyan Chaubey is there, who's a footballer, who knows football, who knows the pain of a footballer, and his only job is being football. Same with Shaji. His only job is being a Secretary General of this and working for football. And that is why the amount of changes we have seen in the last 6 months have not happened in the last 10 years. And for the first time, we've seen the federation being able to stand up to this FSDL and tell them that we don't want your extension. That's what they've given in the Supreme Court and told them we don't want your bloody extension. We want the rights to go out to every broadcaster so they can pay us. And we can run football. We can't be held hostage to something owned by a billionaire who tells us again what to do, how to run the national team, how not to run the national team, which coach to hire, when the season should be. You can't do that. There's nothing, no country in the world which does this except India and the US. So we have very big differences to talk about, bro. That's a different discussion for another day, and I would have taken 2 hours on it.
Another day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Ajay, I think our question before, I think we went to a different level now. So Dev Diti says, what about India's Kuwait's match prediction? Any prediction? Are you expecting Kuwait to pull up some surprise that day? Because Kuwaiti team was out of, they already come off, they were also under the FIFA ban. From there, they have come up, and I think the team is quite strong, what I've heard. So it will be tough test for Indian national team. What do you think? I think I'll put the question to both of you. What do you think about the game?
I would come out with a draw because both teams are testing themselves out. Same with what Lebanon did with India just before the semi-finals last time. I would say a draw.
I will think that both teams will not play their first 11. So therefore, it's going to be interesting to see what they do because it's a similar scenario as in the Intercontinental Cup. I think they'll also watch tomorrow who's going to be top of Group B. So I think they'll also track and see, okay, I think both sides will try and avoid Lebanon and see who's going to be, the better team to play. So I think both sets of, I don't see both teams playing their first teams, first of all. But on the other side, it's a question of, do you want to finish first or do you want to finish second in the group? India needs to win because India has, even though the goal difference is the same, 11, Kuwait has scored 1 goal more, but they've also conceded. So on the other side, I would like India to continue its goalless sort of run of not conceding. So, yeah, and Igor Stimac is always there to surprise us with his lineup. So, again, who would have thought that Rahul Baker would start as centre-back today? So, therefore, let Igor roll the dice and play the best possible 11. And let's wait for a good game. But I think it will most probably be a rematch on the 4th of July in Bangalore for the final between these two teams. So I think the little I've seen so far, I think these two are the best two teams in the competition.
By far. I agree.
Okay, thank you. I think big thank you to both of you, Ranjit sir and Arunavutsa. You made your time and you were available for 1.5 hours. Ranjit sir, again, I think it was the second show with you. Arunavutsa coming on a Saturday from his schedule is something which is unlikely, highly unlikely. But thank you for that. But it was lovely talking to both of you. I think people, more than, close to 200 people were hearing till it's right to 11:30 in India. So they wanted to hear this thing, and people said me that to have this show, and out of the request I did this show, and it was lovely hearing from both of you. I think where Indian football stand, where East Bengal, Mohun Bagan stand, where Bengal football stands right now, and your insights where I think these insights will help us grow in future. What I would expect. And people who from IFA who looks into or our club officials who are in the part of this discussion, if they are able to hear something from you guys, I think they would, do better for the clubs. So before you leave, I think one question was who came. I think Arunavutsa I'm not able to see him. Bubai says a question. I think Bubai's question I'll take before we leave. I think I think I'll take the comment. He says. Himanshu Jangra is a better option for East Bengal is a better option for Himanshu, but Himanshu's breaking news आप एक बार फिर बता दीजिए सबके लिए हिंदी में बता दीजिए.
So we have had no official offer from East Bengal for Himanshu, and even if there was an offer, I would rather have it from the like Aruna very rightly said, asking the coach that where am I going to be in 5 years, 5-year plan because for a boy like that you need to know that, otherwise like he very rightly said. There's no point. Yes, if Himanshu was 25, 26, then a 1-year, 2-year contract, and even if he sits out, no problem. But at this age, it's a very different thing. So, thank you so much for having me, bhai. And see, understand, there'll only be joy Indian football and joy India if there's joy East Bengal and joy Mohun Bagan. Simple.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Aruna, for having me. Thank you, Aruna, for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Also, we'll catch up tomorrow for our show. Arunavutsa, thank you. কালকে রাত 10টায় আবার শো হবে।
Welcome.
তো সবাই দেখতে থাকবেন ইন্ডিয়ান ফুড এন্ড ফুটবল। আজকে খুব ভালো ডিসকাশন হলো, খুব মানে আলোচনার মধ্যে অনেক কনস্ট্রাকটিভ আলোচনা হয়েছে। আই থিঙ্ক which is very much important. ওপিনিয়ন্স ছিল, ডিসএগ্রিমেন্ট ছিল, বাট দ্য মিউচুয়াল রেসপেক্ট যেটা ছিল সেটা খুব ভালো ছিল, যেটা আমার ভালো লেগেছে। আই থিঙ্ক দ্য ওপিনিয়ন্স ম্যাটার, এন্ড আই থিঙ্ক both of them contributed to us, and I think that was very very important for the show to run. So thank you. 11:30 বাজে শেষ করছি, কালকে দেখা হবে রাত 10টার সময় আবার। থ্যাংক ইউ।